Hello, welcome to the Daybreak Star Radio Network. Our motto, we can't begin any interview without letting everybody know our official motto here at our radio network is indigenize in the airways. That's the whole purpose of our radio network. We would like to give a very warm, proud welcome to Amber Buker today out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. And Sherry's from Tulsa, Oklahoma. So it's kind of fun to be able to have a guest on that can relate to where Sherry's from. So welcome, Amber.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm ridiculously excited to be here. You guys are indigenizing the airwaves. We're trying to decolonize finance. So I'm excited to get into it today.
Great.
That is awesome. So tell everyone a little bit about who you are and your tribal affiliation.
So halito sa hochifo ya Amber Buker chatasia hoki. Hi, I'm Amber Buker. I am Choctaw, which is a tribe here in Oklahoma, where I'm coming to you from. I live in Tulsa, which is Muskogee land, and I am the co-founder and CEO of Totem, which is the only digital bank built by and for indigenous people.
Yeah. So what is that? You have an app, the My Totem app, but what exactly do you mean by decolonize the banking industry too? What is all of that?
Yeah, so essentially we are a digital bank, or some people call it a neobank. And basically what that means is that we've built the front end app that from scratch, actually myself and my co-founder, Richard Chance, who is Cherokee and also lives here in Oklahoma. We've built our app from scratch to allow indigenous folks, regardless of their tribal affiliation, to open bank accounts, track their spending, access tribal benefits. And we have a whole list of other features that will be coming down the pike, like a credit building card and some other cool stuff. But basically how we work is that we're the ones who are building the app from scratch and the ones deciding on the products and all of those good things, making payments happen, partnering with tribes. And then on the back end, we partner with a local community bank based here in Tulsa that actually holds our deposits so that they're FDIC insured. So we partner with that local chartered bank and work together so that everything is all safe and secure, but something that is also relevant and allows people to bank with an institution that has a national footprint, but doesn't have some of the issues of working with other large national banks that are investing and funding a lot of projects that are pretty contrary to indigenous values.
Yeah, they sure are. That's the nice way to say it.
Amber, what inspired you to create this exciting opportunity, the tradition for native wealth building through, the art of digital banking?
Well, it was an experience that I had actually trying to access a tribal benefit program through My Nation when I was trying to buy my first home. I think it's probably a pretty common experience, at least among indigenous folks that I know here in Oklahoma. We are sometimes, first generation college students. We don't talk about money a great deal in our homes. In my case, I was the first immediate person in my immediate family to try to purchase a home. And when I came to that, I had trouble with my credit. I had very little savings. I had no idea how to actually going about buying a home. And so I hit all of these barriers along the way that I was able to get over. And so it just made sense to me to build something that would allow other indigenous folks to not have to have such a tough time with those barriers. So in my case, in my story, I was trying to access this down payment program. I called my tribe up and I said, hey, I heard that you have this. And they said, no, we don't have that. And I was like, okay, well, it says on your website that you do. So, it's funny when I talk to other Native folks about this story, we all just kind of laugh and are like, okay, so we know that you just hang up and call back 2 days later and hope you get someone else that knows it exists, right? So that's what I did. Spent about a week getting transferred around, finally found someone who could kind of explain the program to me, but we couldn't figure out between the two of us whether I qualified or what the next steps were. And because it was about buying a home, I thought, oh, well, I'll ask my mortgage lender who I'm working with at a community bank to see if they would call the tribe and help, maybe I'm not speaking the right language. Maybe they could help me sort it out and figure out this program. But my banker did not want to take that step for me, didn't feel comfortable doing it. And so ultimately I was just kind of stuck. I never was able to use that program, although I did buy a house by myself successfully many years later.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you. But I just remembered thinking at the time, like, if I just had a bank that understood what it is to be Native, what these tribal benefits are. It could have gone really differently. And so that's our story is, that's where the seed was planted at least. And then flash forward several years, COVID hits, everyone needs a way to accept stimulus checks. If you didn't have a bank account before, guess what? All the branches are closed. So good luck going to open a new account now. So when COVID hit, a lot of people went out and opened digital bank accounts. And so they got a lot more comfortable with transacting on their phones and doing 90% of their business on their phones. And those trends have not gone back. Everyone that adopted digital banking is pretty much still doing it for the most part. And so during that period, I was looking around at all of the digital banks that were coming up. There were so many really cool concepts. There are several banks for Black Americans. There are several for immigrants. There are, one of my friends is a co-founder of a digital bank called Daylight for LGBTQIA folks. And I was looking around the space and all these other things were getting built. But I didn't know anyone else in fintech at the time who was Native American. And so I looked around and I was like, well, I guess if someone's going to build for us, it might as well be me. That's kind of how it all came together. It was that old experience that I had with benefits in the financial system and trying to get my footing under me as a human. And then, in my professional life, seeing digital banking really become just so ubiquitous that it's a great opportunity to actually address a lot of the barriers that our people have to accessing financial services. So for example, just the easiest one, Natives travel 3 times further on average to get to a bank branch than other Americans do. So, that's the biggest, easiest one to explain. So it's like, okay, well, let's make this digital tool that's in your pocket all the time. I've had calls with folks on more remote reservations that, they don't have great broadband, but they always have a smartphone and it usually works better than the broadband. So yeah, it's kind of just a great time to be building this in terms of technology and also in terms of just the moment that I think our people collectively are having, right now as we're experiencing some really cool representation in the world.
Yeah. So I have a question. So in that, and with a lot of banking, I'm sure that especially a lot of the check places that are on the borders of reservations, they really are predatory towards Native peoples and they have really high interest rates and such. How do you in your app, how do you guys stop that process or what are your rates like?
Yeah, so we're starting out with just basic debit cards, virtual and physical debit cards linked to a FDIC insured checking account. We've got some really cool savings features that help you save and spend money wisely. And then, of course, lots of information about benefits, who to call, how to get those. That's really what we're starting with. But we have a long roadmap that includes things that like a credit builder card, where it'll be a secured credit card that you can use to build your credit score so that you can qualify for better loan products in the long run. We do have plans to move into like Section 184 mortgages that are special mortgages just for our people, but that a lot of banks don't know how to do, right? So we're starting out small, but really by just the basic step of having a bank account is so important to building that financial path so that you have options besides those really high interest loan outfits and things like that. That's really where we're starting our journey. Certainly, I hope that we're able to offer personal loans and things like that down the line, but just getting a bank account, establishing that credit score, getting some diverse streams of help and extra income coming in. That's really where we're starting, is so that people can build that strong foundation so that they hopefully get to the point where they don't need those sort of short-term options as much. Access to credit is super important for our people. We're more likely to be credit invisible than other folks. So not necessarily that we have bad credit, but just that we have no credit file at all. And sometimes difficult to get credit if you hadn't had it before. So it's a vicious cycle that makes no sense. And so, yeah, we have our eyes on really helping people improve their credit, access products that we're able to offer to them through a little different lens than some of those payday lenders and other outfits.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I've had lots of conversations with some of my friends who are trying to buy a car or a house, and they're like, well, they say I don't have any credit. And they're like, but I pay everything all the time. And I'm like, yeah. Well, what they're really saying is it's a debt score, and they want to know that you could pay debt. And they're like, yeah, but I don't like debt. I don't have any. It's like, yes, that's the whole problem. And we're now in a circle.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's really complicated. And, like I mentioned earlier, like as a kid in college, they offer you all sorts of credit and it's easy to get in trouble with it. And so I think especially for our people, like as we've been out at powwows telling people what we're doing, we get so many people that come up to us and say, oh my gosh, I have to tell my son or my daughter about this. They're trying to fix their credit. They got into some trouble with things and now they're trying to dig out of that hole. And it really is a rough cycle that I think our people experience at higher rates than other populations. And especially like you said, Sherry, like when there's all these little places dotting right around the outside of the res, like, that's targeted at you in a way that is not always healthy. So yeah, lots to untangle, lots of good work to do, lots of big challenges for us ahead.
Yeah.
Where do you envision with everything, Amber, that you've got going on, and the future build outs? If you look at the next 3 to 5 years, where would you like to see yourself in 5 years from where you're at right now?
So 5 years from now, we hope to have a lot of tribal partnerships. So this is something that we haven't touched on yet, which is that in addition to just being a digital bank that anyone can download and open an account in a few minutes, we also want to partner with tribal communities. So this is really important for us because we're offering a lot of tools that would enable tribes to, first of all, offer accounts to their members, but also to pay out tribal benefits in a way that's more efficient, safer, faster, cheaper. A lot of tribes are still using paper checks and prepaid cards to distribute benefits, which have a lot of leakage, a lot of fees. It can be very tricky. So we're trying to offer better solutions for that will allow people to get benefits through an electronic deposit into an FDIC insured account that's not a prepaid, so that you can use it where you need to, right? So that we really hope that some of our tribal partnerships will be really growing. By 5 years from now, I hope to have a lot of tribal partners, and we're just starting those conversations. But in addition, as I mentioned, our roadmap is forever growing and being added to, and technology is changing so rapidly that we're able to spin up new products really fairly quickly with the team of amazing engineers that we have. And so as far as what the product will look like 5 years from now, I hope it will be very robust. We're looking at adding community aspects. We're looking at helping tribes use it to notify people when benefit programs are changing and communicate deadlines and things. So, what's starting out now is like, a checking account and some benefit information and spending info. We hope will grow into something that's really a one-stop place for you to live your best life as a Native person.
Great. Wonderful.
Yeah, that's really amazing. And honestly, what a way to speak to the power within this country, the power structures, because this is, what if there was a Bank of the Choctaw Nation or Cherokee Nation or Haida? That is a lot of power.
There are about 30 Native-owned banks in the country, and they're by and large like incredible institutions. I have a friend who's the treasurer of a tribe that has their own bank that has 7 branches. It's doing incredibly well. But the thing is, there's only 30 of them for the entire country. And most of the 30 that we have are pretty small. They're, 1 or 2 branches that serve a pretty specific geographic area. They don't have a ton of access to technology and things like that. And so that's really where we're hoping to fill some gaps by providing something has national coverage and can reach you kind of anywhere that you are, and give you just another way to proclaim your identity through your banking choice, really.
I think that's great. So I'm going to ask some very basic questions because I'm sure some of our listeners will have them. So who's eligible for one of these accounts?
So anyone, we don't require that you have a specific enrollment status or blood quantum. There are a lot of philosophical reasons for that we probably don't have time for in this show. But essentially, when you sign up for the app, we'll ask you what tribe you are. We'll need you to be over 18 today, because we don't have them yet. We are working on under 18 accounts on that roadmap, but today you do have to be 18, and you have to reside within the United States. But yeah, the sign up process is really easy. We'll ask you for just some basic, name, address, that kind of information. We'll ask you for an ID, and usually you can open an account within 3, max 5 minutes. It's a pretty simple process. You don't have to have a certain minimum balance, or you don't have to fund the account with a certain amount to start with. So you really can just go through the KYC, or that means know your customer is what that stands for. Go through that know your customer process so that we can tell that you are who you are. We'll open the account, and you can start, playing around and seeing what's in there without having any sort of big commitment.
That is amazing. So that really means for all of you listening that if you're in New York, or if you're in the Dakotas, or if you're in Arizona, or up here in Seattle, you could open a bank account.
Yeah. Now, to be clear, we're not launching until the spring. So you can't do it today. You won't be able to download the app today, but we do have a wait list on our website. So if you go to www.mytotem.app, so that's mytotem.app, there's our wait list that you just pop in your email, and we'll say, okay, great. We'll send you an email when we open and let you know that you can open an account if you're ready.
Oh, that is right. Okay, so spring 2023.
Yeah. So
Brilliant.
you'll start hearing rumblings from us probably around spring break, somewhere around there. Keep an eye out for news from us.
Very excited.
Yeah, that really is.
We'll have to have you back on with us closer to launch to do a follow-up, Amber.
That would be amazing. Great. That would be great fun. We could pull it out on air, and even though people can't see it, we can, I don't know, we can walk through it.
Well, this will go up on our blog, so we totally can.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good thing I put makeup on today then, since we're on video and I didn't realize it.
Yes.
One thing that we always like to ask, our local guests, and even national as well. I mean, have you ever applied for a grant? And if so, would you like to briefly describe that overall experience?
We haven't for Totem. We're a venture-backed company, so we just closed our just over $2 million pre-seed funding round. That was mainly backed by an indigenous group, actually, called Raven Indigenous Capital Partners. They're our amazing lead investors, and then we've got several other investors that are awesome that participated as well. So we don't typically write grants, but I can say from personal experience that I worked at a nonprofit, actually, when I was a lawyer for a hot minute. I was working at a nonprofit, and I was doing a lot of the grant writing and management for an arts organization in Nashville. And that is the most underratedly difficult job there is. I mean, oh man, working with grants, getting them written, but also just the process of managing them afterward is so time consuming and hard work. And so we haven't for Totem, no, but anyone out there who's doing that, I give you my utmost respect and well wishes for your efforts, because there's a lot of great resources to be had, but you just have to have a lot of time and patience to take advantage of them.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you. So do you have any advice for Native youth who are interested in getting into banking or finance?
Advice for Native youth. I think the first thing really for Native youth is just knowing that this is a career path. If you can't see it, you can't be it. And I think that a lot of times technology and finance are career paths that are not front and center for a lot of Native youth. And so I think that's the main thing, is just keeping your eyes open for possibilities is the main thing. I kind of fell into a career in banking, and I've actually never worked at a bank. I've advised bank CEOs about technology, but I've never actually been a teller. So I don't know that I know much about the correct path to any finance or tech careers, but I would just say, obviously getting your education helps, but the great thing about tech too is that you don't have to have a necessarily a formal college degree to be really successful in technology, because technology is all about proving that you're capable and like showing people what you do. So my co-founder, Richard, I mentioned earlier, he's actually completely self-taught, and it's an incredible story. He has children, and they were learning to read when they were young, and he wanted to teach them sight words. And so naturally, he looked on his smartphone for an app to do that, because that's what we all do nowadays, right? We just look for the app. And he was really disappointed with what was out there. And so he was like, you know what? I'm going to build this sight reading app myself. He literally taught himself how to code and build apps to build a sight reading app for his own children. He was successful. It started to get like thousands of downloads, and he loved the feeling that he got from that and decided to pursue it. Before we started working together, he owned his own company building apps for trucking companies, library systems, just all these incredible organizations. And so I guess if I had a message to Native youth, it would be like, especially in tech, if you just work hard and have an appetite to learn and put yourself in, rooms where you'll have opportunities to present that, which there are a lot of those competitions, accelerator programs as you get older. You can do it. You can do it. If you've got the work ethic, you can do it, especially in tech.
Thank you very much. Last question. I know we've got to wrap up here in about 2 minutes. Real quickly, is there one particular role model that you would like to highlight and share that's been a strong influence for you throughout your career?
I have had a ton of amazing role models throughout my career. Every boss that I've had, I've been very fortunate, actually. Every boss that I've ever had has been a really incredible human. I can't think I've ever had a bad boss. So I guess all of those, but it's interesting when we think about like role models, we typically think about people that are above us or older than us, but actually the woman who I think has been the most influential role model for me in building Totem is actually a contemporary of mine. So her name is Danae Vakata, and she is Danae or Navajo. And she's the only other Native she's the only other Native person in general that I know in fintech. And she's really the one that gave me the belief in myself, the confidence to believe that I could raise the money that we needed to build this thing, which was something that I was very unsure about. Like, I don't come from money, I know what commodity cheese tastes like, right? Like first person in my family to go to college, like I mentioned. I've never even thought of millions of dollars, let alone raised millions of dollars, right? But she saw that I had, she thought I could make it, and she made me believe I could make it, and she was right. And so I'm so eternally grateful to her. She's also founding a company right now called Grounded, that's helping minority-owned depository institutions access deposits and technology. And my biggest role model for this leg of my journey has been a contemporary.